Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is Reservations, and I'm Jeremy Blair.
And I'm Rain Whalen.
Oh man, again, sorry about all the Patti Smith last time.
When I was editing the video for that, and I got to the end, I was like, no one's gonna get that.
Doesn't matter. Well, the YouTube audience isn't gonna get it.
Yeah, that's true. And also, sorry for saying I get it 49 times.
It was a lot. It was a lot of times, man.
Well,
it was a lot of times.
I would say between the two of us, let's have it between the two of us. So
Sure.
Well, actually, it's not a whole half. So one of us said it 25 times, the other said it 24. So I'm gonna say you.
Oh, I forgot to put these.
You said it
on the table. Sorry.
24. Oh well, that's fine. So I'm gonna say you said it 24 and I said it 25.
Sure.
Yeah, because that was a lot.
It was a lot. It was quite a bit. But you know, I mean, it was fine. But this week is very special. I am very excited.
Yes. So I wanted to acknowledge, because as we were just talking about off mic, this one isn't necessarily strange or fitting into my loose strange category.
It's just good.
It's just good, and I just really wanted to talk about it. You know, like I said last week, I watched this one on my own accord, and fell in love with it. I mean, just like I did with Nocturnal Animals. You know, granted, you kind of forced me to watch that, but that's fine because I wanted to see it anyway. But this time, I was like, you know what? No, I want to be a big boy now, and watch a movie that Jeremy doesn't recommend.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I do recommend.
Yes. So, Jeremy, what are we talking about?
Oh man, dude, we're talking about Tom Ford's A Single Man.
A Single Man.
Yeah.
So,
or Christopher Isherwood's
A Single Man. Yeah. You get it.
You get it.
And like we mentioned last week, so this is Tom Ford's directorial debut.
Yeah.
We talked about his second movie in the first official episode of Reservations with Rain and Jeremy back in season 2, episode uno. Because that was when because I'd asked you, like, hey, let's just be my co-host. Let's just do this, me and you, let's do this. And you were like, well, hey, let's cap this one off as season 1. And then let's start season 2 with Nocturnal Animals. And I was like, okay. And the rest is history.
Yeah. Very boring, dull history.
Oh, not for us. I mean,
well, no, not for us.
But for y'all, maybe.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, and so I loved Nocturnal Animals. It was so good. It was so, for only his second movie, he crushed it.
Yeah.
And so, like I was mentioning last week, I was just kind of on this really weird Tom Ford. Like, I was just thinking about him for some reason.
Yeah, just think about Tom Ford.
As you do, you know.
As anybody does.
I mean, local Texan as well.
Yeah.
Not local Texan. Also, fellow Texan.
Fellow Texan.
I don't know, I was just thinking about him, and I was like, yeah, what was that? Jeremy told me that he did another movie. What was that other movie again? And not to be confused with A Serious Man.
Which is also good.
Yes. Which that's what I thought it was at first. I was like, right, it's like A Serious Man. And then when I looked it up, I was like, oh, A Single Man.
Single Man.
Didn't those movies come out around the same time, though? Do you think that's why maybe I got confused?
Maybe, because this one came out in like 08.
09. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, around the same time.
So I wonder how Joel and Ethan Coen...
At least I think it's around the same time.
Future Rain, fact check that. That's why we have you.
He's not going to fact check.
Yeah, maybe not.
No.
Maybe just to spite us. Anyway, and so I was like, oh yeah, Single Man, that's right. Colin, and then I didn't realize who was in it, so I was like, Colin Firth? Oh, okay. Julianne Moore? Already sold right there.
Yep.
And then I read the synopsis on IMDb about a college professor in 1962, Los Angeles.
November 30th, 1960.
Yes. Dealing with depression while not being allowed to be openly gay. That sold me. And so I was like, screw it. Let's watch it. It was on Netflix at the time. It's now on Prime because Netflix took it off. Bastards. But it's on Prime now for free. And just really fell in love with all the choices Tom Ford made as a first-time director in terms of cinematography and storytelling, and it just it really blew me away, man.
Yeah, I don't know much about Tom Ford besides the, bringing Gucci out from bankruptcy and then,
And then saying, fuck you guys, and making my own line.
Well, yeah, and then, besides the fashion mogul stuff, I really don't know much about him. So it's almost like, it feels like making movies is an afterthought to him.
I think so.
And then it ends up being amazing, which isn't fair. But
it's almost like you're saying that making movies is just like a passion project. Like,
yeah, and I've heard him say, or read something, that he's like, this is what gets out my creativity. I get out my creativity by making movies. And it's like, you get at your creativity by making amazing, like critically acclaimed, like
like
Oscar nominated
movies.
That's what you do? Cool, man.
And please make more for the love of God.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Because I think it's 8 or 9 years in between.
Yeah, because I think Nocturnal Animals is
17.
So Tom, if you're watching or listening, please make more movies.
Yeah, please make more movies, man.
I will gladly wait 8 more years for another one.
Sure.
But maybe turn that down to like 4 years.
Yeah.
Because I want more. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny that he says that.
I know.
So Jeremy.
Yes, sir.
Where do you want to start with this?
Oh boy. Well, I guess we can just start, with, let's just talk about, the story as a whole. So,
Yeah, okay.
Colin Firth plays George. George is dealing with the loss of his partner,
Jim.
played by Matthew Good.
Yeah.
Some of you might know him as Ozymandias.
Or he's in a lot of shit.
Yeah, he's in a bunch of stuff.
But to our Watchmen fans out there.
Yeah, he's Ozymandias. And it's been 8 months.
Yes. Yeah, I had to look that up last night because I wanted to, for the episode, I wanted to know how much time has passed for George. So that happened. So this is November. November.
Oh, man, we're working backwards? All right.
October, September, August, July, June, May. No, April, May. No, I had it right the first time. May, April, March. So it happened in March.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. So...
And I'm sure Future Rain will correct me if I got that wrong.
Who cares? Doesn't matter.
So, yes.
So Jim dies, and he has just been, really struggling.
Yeah.
These past 8 months. And today, he's decided, last day.
Yep. So before we move on, it took me a while to understand what he was talking about. Because, again, Testament, as we've talked about numerous times with numerous different movies, testament to great writing, I kind of didn't know what George was really talking about in his narration until I saw the gun. And then that's when I was like, oh.
Yeah.
He's going to kill himself.
Yeah. Yeah. So today's his last day.
Yes. Because I was interpreting it as, because, he says today's going to be different. And I was like, okay, so he's decided today's the day I'm going to move on.
No.
Technically, he is moving on.
Yeah, technically, I guess.
From this life.
Yeah. And, but he's still going to go through, like, he didn't take a day off of work or anything.
No, homie's like, I got to get my affairs in order. I got to go to work.
Yeah.
I
gotta see my buddy.
Yeah. Lee Pace.
Yeah.
Oh, Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore.
My bad.
Gotta see Julianne Moore.
Gotta see Julianne Moore. And then I gotta kiss this world. Fucking adieu.
Yeah. So, but again, he goes through the motions of the day, but he does it differently. And we see evidence of this through, like Nicholas Holt's character is saying, hey man, why don't you ever talk to us like that? Like where he's being very candid and he's being honest.
Yeah.
Right. And he's, just telling him how it is. He's not, at that point, he wasn't Professor George. He was George.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We should mention that Nicholas Holt is in the movie.
Yeah.
He's one of his students.
Baby Beast.
And thanks to Harry Potter every time, because he calls him Mr. Potter the whole movie. All I could think of is Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I was like, Tom, why didn't you just write in? He calls him Kenny.
Because that's not who he is in the book. So,
But anyway, yeah. So yeah, George is and we see, even though he's decided to end his life, he in these isolated incidents, he's appreciating the beauty in these incidents.
Yeah, and of course the cinematography there is great, where he bumps up the color, right? Everything's more vibrant when he is
when we're seeing it through George's eyes.
when we're seeing him notice something beautiful, in a sense, right? You know, you would almost think like life's not so bad right now,
Yeah.
right? And this happens throughout the movie where he was watching. I think one of the first times is when he's watching those guys play tennis, right?
Yes.
Of course, well, technically the first time is when he's thinking of Jim, right?
Right.
Those memories are
always
in this vibrant color.
But yeah, the first time we see it through George's eyes in the present,
Yeah.
is when those guys at the college are playing tennis, and Lee Pace is going on and on about fucking nuclear holocaust. We should mention this is a few weeks, I believe, after the Cuban Missile Crisis. So fear and anxiety are high in America because
Cold War stuff.
Yeah, man.
That's all that Cold War stuff right there.
Don't trust like that.
I know. So anyway, so he is. He's going through the motions of life, but it's different, right?
Yeah.
He's treating his day different than he normally would, right?
Yeah, like
complimenting his secretary's
hair
and lipstick, right?
Yeah.
He wouldn't normally do that, and you can tell that he's never done that.
Yeah, or when he compliments, or not compliments, when he thanks Alva, his housekeeper, and gives her a kiss on the cheek, you can tell she's like.
Yeah.
Which, in my opinion, if she's been cleaning his house for as long as she has, that should have sent off like red flags. Like, wait, he never treats me like that.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, that's fine. She just needs to thaw that bread. That's what she needs to do.
But that's how it stays fresh.
A little too fresh. So anyway, I also really liked the quick shot of what George imagines Lee Pace's bomb shelter looks like.
Yeah.
I really like that.
I didn't catch that on the first watch through, and then last night when I was rewatching it, I was like, oh, hey.
Yeah. Because, as he's being distracted, right? Mm-hmm. That quick, flash of what must that look like, pops into his mind. And Tom Ford does a great job in intercutting those things, because we don't really get something like that again. It's something, very quick.
Yeah.
Right. This very, sort of tongue in cheek, comedic moment, which I liked. So, again, these events take place over one day. So,
yes, which, as I mentioned last week, most movies or even TV shows that do this, I really can't stand.
So you're not a 24 guy?
Nah. Okay. Or, perfect example, the final season of How I Met Your Mother is literally one day.
Dude, don't get me started.
Oh, don't get me started, bro. That's my favorite show, and they...
Don't get me started, bro.
Anyway, but I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
Mainly because it doesn't feel like it's one day.
Yeah.
Because of these isolated incidents and things that are happening to George.
Yeah, it is. Again, this one's very episodic. Yeah. Right?
And the intercuts of flashbacks to he and Jim's relationship. And then when it finally hit me that it was the same day was when he's... and we'll get there a little bit more, but practicing, I guess, on how he's going to do it.
So there's a couple of moments when you think he's just going to, just go ahead and do it, you know? But then, and I forgot her character's name, Julianne Moore.
Charlotte, but he calls her Charlie.
Charlie. So when Charlie calls the first time, they make plans, right? Mm-hmm. And then when has the gun in his mouth and he's practicing, and he's like getting in the sleeping bag and stuff, like or maybe those are two separate incidents.
No, because she's calling again, and he's like, no, I didn't forget the gin. I'll see you in 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, did she interrupt him, or was he just practicing? That I don't know. By the way, he needs more practice because he was just going to blow out the back of his throat, which he'll live through, more than likely.
And also, I was telling Ashley this, speaking of his, I guess, practicing. I was telling Ashley this last night. I don't know if it was meant to be comedic, but I thought that was pretty funny.
That he's just...
Because he's like...
pointing it all the way back.
And then he's like adjusting his pillows.
Yeah.
And then he's like, all right, you know what? I'll try in the bathtub.
You know, maybe it kind of is. I think it might be. It's supposed to be sort of...
and then like, okay, you know what? I'll put the sleeping bag.
Darkly funny, because he doesn't want there to be a huge mess. Right.
Oh, and then he always got all his I guess when he wants to be buried and laid out.
Yeah.
Tie in a Windsor knot, which I had to pause that because I wasn't really paying attention to the note.
The handwriting's atrocious. Or it's... I don't know if it's like really bad, but I mean, it's just really...
it's very fast cursive.
Yeah, very fast cursive.
And so I was like, tie in Windsor.
Tie in Windsor.
But yeah, you know, so...
Would you have thought to put what knot you wanted your tie in?
No.
I wouldn't have either.
Well, one, because I'm not suicidal, and two, as I mentioned to Ashley last night, only a gay man would have set out.
You think so?
I mean, that's not to be discriminatory, but
that's pretty funny.
I mean,
I get what you're saying. So
in most film, when someone commits suicide, they don't lay out.
What is your So I don't want to go through all of them. So let's talk about your favorite episodic moment.
Okay. Mine, it would probably be a tie between when he meets Carlos.
Okay, yeah.
I really love that interaction because he, for the first time at this point in the movie, George is letting his guard down. Not essentially he's not telling someone that he's going to kill himself, but he is being a little bit more vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And really just kind of listening to Carlos's story about, you know, coming to America because, you know, a friend of his mom's promised that he could make it in the movies, but, you know, that hasn't really worked out and he's just become a prostitute. It kind of reminded me a lot of... rewatching it, and after watching last week's episode, it kind of made me think of him talking about, like, you know, they all have these stories. Mm-hmm. It's almost like that's what George was wanting. You know, I want your story.
Right.
I want to hear a story. Yeah. So I really love that.
And it didn't help that the dude's like super hunky.
Yeah, man. I mean? And he does actually kind of look like James Dean.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'd also agree he's better looking than James Dean.
Yeah.
Don't tell Mickey I said that.
Yes, I don't think I've ever talked about it. My mom loves James Dean.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Now I would also say that this is the longest we've been in this color cinematography too.
Yes.
When he's talking with Carlos.
And we forgot to mention, so when George is experiencing this beauty and we cut back from someone else's perspective, George is very muted and very gray. But then when we cut through George's eyes, it's very vibrant, which I was sold immediately. And then what it ties with is probably his final interaction with Charlie.
Okay, yeah.
Mainly the fight that they have when Charlie essentially kind of calls him out for saying that what he and Jim had wasn't real love. That her and George could have had real love in a real relationship. Mm-hmm. And it's I apologize if anyone can hear my wife laughing. She's watching BuzzFeed Unsolved. Mm. Anyway, it was just such a beautiful, like, I thought the whole movie was beautiful, like in terms of tone and writing, and everything about the movie was beautiful. So I really liked that George, you know, because it felt to me, at least, this was Tom's way to kind of get some of his own frustration out, because Tom Ford himself being an openly gay man, and George goes in this great angry monologue, and he's not really screaming, but he is talking very loudly to Charlie about how he and Jim were together for 16 years, and if that's not real, like, then what did you have with Richard,
Right. And if
her ex-husband?
and if Jim hadn't died, they still would have been together.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, this isn't, again, this is a very 1960s mentality, right, about homosexual relationships.
Which so it's a tie between those two, because it's
Cool.
especially because you don't think that that's how that scene's gonna go.
Right.
With Charlie, with their last interaction, because it starts off very, two old friends just catching up, and then you start to learn, like, okay, well, she's in love with him. She doesn't love him, she's in love with him. And then she kind of puts her foot in her mouth.
Yeah, and honestly, it's just she can't let go of her feelings with George, even though I think she knows that he is unavailable.
Yeah.
Right. And so she has dedicated her life to trying to get George to notice her and to get George to, I guess, essentially want her back. Right.
Yeah.
And it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. And I just, again, like, the whole movie's just beautiful, but I love that, because then, he forgives her for what she says, and she forgives him. And, they end it on a very, forgiving and loving note. She still wants more, but he's like, look, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's because he knew this was going to be the last time, that they both saw each other, and he didn't want, no matter how mad he was at her, he didn't want to leave it like that.
Right.
Especially because, he had written her a letter.
Right.
I guess because he didn't really leave a suicide note. So I'm assuming.
Not that we saw.
Not that we saw, unless the letter to her was his suicide note. But yeah, so what was your favorite part, or your favorite interaction?
I was going to say it was a tie, and the second one was going to be with Charlie.
Yeah.
But yours was Carlos. Mine's the girl at the bank.
The little girl?
The little girl at the bank.
Yeah.
I really like this moment with George, because not only is it just a girl at the bank, it's someone he knows, right?
Yeah.
This is the neighbor he was looking at while he was in the bathroom. Which has its own thing that we're going to get into way later. But I love that he is polite, he's kind, he's charming, right? He's not annoyed.
That this little girl just kind of walked up to him. And
Yeah. And he's having this wonderful, interaction with this young girl. And then of course it dawns on you who she is when you see the mother show up, and it's the neighbor, right? It's the neighbor across the street. And of course, before that, you can tell that they do know each other, because she mentions that her dad thinks he's light in his loafers, right? Which of course is 1960s for gay.
Yeah. And derogatory term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she says that really funny, cute thing about her brother being light in his loafers, because
but he wears Keds.
But he wears Keds. It's just it's cute. I like it, and I like that George is allowing himself to be, sort of this charming person for this little girl, instead of just being like, go away.
Hey,
right?
Little girl, fuck off.
Yeah. Instead of just saying go away, fuck off. He's humoring her, but he's also genuinely enjoying the interaction, right?
Yeah.
This isn't something that he's just like, okay, well, let me listen and half pay attention. He's having a conversation with this girl. And I really enjoy the way that it's also shot, again with the color, right?
Yeah.
He's noticing little details in what she's wearing, and her blue dress and the her shoes.
When the scene started, I genuinely thought he was imagining her. Until he started to talk, and I was like, okay, maybe he's not. And then when her mom walks up, I was like, oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
No, she's really there.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I really like that interaction too, because she's talking about her scorpion and Charlton Heston.
Yeah, Charlton Heston.
Which I did. I looked up some trivia, and apparently that was inspired by Tom Ford's actual life. Apparently, they also, when growing up, he and his sister also had a pet scorpion. And they're talking about how, like, you know, when, like, she says, like, my brother put egg in my hair. Does it look shiny? And that was something that he used to do for his sister. And now kind of looking at that, you know, I could see why that would tie for yours. Because it is really...
I really like it.
It's a really great scene. Because, yeah, you know, most people, you know, would have been like, oh, okay, well, you know, yeah. Can you go away, please?
Yeah.
You know, especially considering, you know, what George had just done in the scene previous, clearing out a safety deposit box. And, you know, and this was clearly a hard thing for him, but he's still like almost cares.
Yeah,
like, to listen to this little girl, Lindsay, I think it's
I don't
name.
remember.
Or Lauren.
What's funny is I recognized her little face, right? And I go, I know that face. I recently watched The House with Will Ferrell and Amy Poehler, and that's their daughter.
Oh, okay. Of course, now she's like...
Yeah, now she's
grown
like,
up.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's who that is. So it's crazy that when I think about 2009, it doesn't seem like that long ago, but it is. So I really like those scenes. Carlos is a great scene.
Yeah.
To hang your hat on as well. I really enjoy the interaction, especially when George starts speaking Spanish.
Oh yeah, dude.
Right?
I was like, and how much do you want to bet? Because I didn't find anything about that. But how much do you want to bet Colin Firth just like knows Spanish?
Probably. Unfortunately, it is the Queen's Spanish. He's speaking with the Spanish, it's from Spain dialect with the lisp, which I don't care for. But that's fine. So anyway, but let's go ahead and let's dive into Nicholas Hoult, because we're not done.
Yeah, no, man.
With Nicholas Hoult. Yeah.
So, okay, hang on. I just want to get this out. Even though I love the movie, in the beginning with Kenny, I find Kenny very annoying.
Okay.
At the beginning, towards the end, I sort of understand his purpose in the story, but at the beginning, mainly when I first watched the movie, I was like, he's so fucking annoying. And this is 2009, so this is right before he had done X-Men, First Class. And of course, this is, way after he had done About a Boy. And so I'm sure everyone was like, that's the kid from About a Boy?
I always forget that he's in that.
About a Boy, and About a Boy got him on the map.
Yeah, it did. By the way, if all of you Elton John fans out there, it's a mohair sweater, by the way. When, she's got electric boots and a mohair suit, that's mohair, what he's wearing. Which looks very uncomfortable.
Nice Benny and the Jets.
Thank you. It looks very uncomfortable. Or I guess just it looks like too much.
Yeah.
That was the style back then. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what mohair looks like.
But yeah, and Kenny is... Tom does this really great thing where we see him, but we're meant to understand he's going to play an important role before he even says a word.
Yeah.
How Tom films him, with George looking at all the students. Obviously it's a trope in most movies and TV when you linger on someone, but it didn't feel forced to me.
Yeah.
When he lingers on Nicholas Hoult and they have this kind of, wave interaction. And I knew, I was like, okay, he's going to be someone important later on.
Yeah, and pretty significantly important.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, which again defeats my whole, I found him annoying at the beginning, because he is a little...
Oh, I agree.
He's a little much when they're still at this when they're still at the college.
It's almost like what I would think he would be like with the little girl at the bank. It's sort of like, all right, man, you can follow me, you can talk to me, but I'm half listening to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But not this time, right?
Yeah.
I feel like any other day he would be like, all right, man, but I'm busy.
Yeah.
But no, he lets Kenny
walk and talk with him,
and genuinely be engaged in the conversation, is a participant in this conversation.
Yeah.
That they're having, and I forgot about what.
It's an array of subjects,
Right.
you know, from do you get high and
Oh, that's right.
you know, shaved his eyebrow off
That's
after
right,
doing
that's
mescaline,
right.
which is also a real life story from Tom Ford.
Ford.
And there's like other things in their conversation, you know, and then Nicholas Holt buys him a yellow pencil sharpener.
Yeah. Probably costs like 10 cents.
I don't know, man.
9.62, guys.
Just for inflation, it's probably $1 now. I don't
If
know.
that.
I don't know inflation. But you know, and then Kenny, you know, and we learn that Kenny has some sort of infatuation with George.
Yeah, he does.
Because when George, after their conversation's over, George goes back to his office, clears it out, because I guess maybe to make it easier for them to get his effects.
Yeah, maybe.
After the deed is done.
Again, he's being very thorough. He is very aware of what comes after.
Yeah, that
Right.
they're going to have to, you know, get his things in order.
Which implies how long he's been thinking about this.
Yes. Yeah. Probably it's been probably a few months, and then today just happened to be the day he's like, you know, yeah,
It's today.
it's today.
Yeah.
But you know, then you know, Nicholas Holt bugs him, like, you know, I saw you. Are you going on vacation? I saw you clear at your office. And it's like, where were you standing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the beginning, Kenny, like I said, I find Kenny just very annoying.
Yeah.
Until the end. So after his dinner with Charlie, he's getting ready to, I guess, to do it. And this is something I've had trouble with both watches, is why he suddenly decides, I got to go to the bar. Is it because he saw Kenny, or was he just like?
It's because that's where he met Jim.
And so he wanted to see it one last time.
One last time, right? Because we do get that flashback of him meeting Jim at that bar. At least I think it's the same bar, right?
Yeah. It is.
And so he's just like, you know what? It's my last day. Let's go where I met Jim.
One last time.
Let me, and then in his mind, let me go see him. Right. So
Yeah.
this is like, I'm going to go where we met, and then I'm going to go tell Jim about it.
Okay. Cool.
That's what I think. That's what, and then of course,
Oh,
that's,
and that makes more sense.
right. And that's where he sees Kenny.
Well, and we know that Kenny is actually watching him because of that great pan shot, and we see Kenny's bike behind the bush, which for 5 seconds I was like, is that? And I had to rewind it. I was like, Kenny's watching him.
Yeah, Kenny. Come on.
And yeah, so Kenny follows him to the bar where they have this really great discussion of the future. But this is when George is also now in color.
Yeah.
Because something about sitting down and talking with Kenny is actually filling him with joy.
Yeah.
More than he's felt all day.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this great discussion about how, you know, death is the future of everything, but that doesn't mean it has to be sad. Which great conversation and very natural. You know, this conversation very Tarantino level dialogue in my opinion.
Oh my God.
And then they go for a swim.
Yeah.
Which this is when Ashley joined me in on my rewatch, and I was like, "Hey, you're about to see Nicholas Holt's bare ass."
Yeah.
And then and she was like, "Wow, it's really athletic."
He's very thin.
He is very thin.
In this movie, he's very thin.
But then George gets hurt because the crashing waves kind of hit him a little too hard.
Yeah.
And so this is when they go back to George's house, and Kenny kind of gets a little bit more. I mean, I'm sure Kenny kind of knew George was probably gay, but this is when Kenny gets a little bit more inside of George's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenny's kind of he's kind of like the audience, you know? Because I honestly, at this point in the movie, I was like, I don't want George to die though.
Yeah, I know.
And I was like, I don't want him to. Like, come on, man. Like we've spent this whole day with you. I don't want you to die.
Yeah.
And Kenny kind of becomes the audience because he takes George's gun and he sleeps with it So George couldn't, because I'm assuming probably connected the dots.
Yeah.
That George was going to kill himself.
Yeah.
And Kenny's like, no, I don't want you to do that.
Yeah. But as it turns out, that doesn't matter.
Yes, which, man, I was not expecting that ending.
Yeah.
Which is wild because rewatching it, Tom Ford sets it up that that's what's going to happen. Beginning of the movie. So
he takes his aspirin, which is, of course, if you're doing that every morning as part of your routine, means you have a heart problem. Normally, because it thins your blood and it makes it so it won't clot or anything. Right.
Yeah. And we should mention, so George does not kill himself. So he takes his aspirin. He kind of sort of stumbles a little bit. And then Charlie mentions the heart attack he had a year ago. And he's like, it wasn't a heart attack. It wasn't hard. And so Tom sets it up like, hey, this is going to come back.
Yeah.
Pay attention. And so George has this almost epiphany. I'm not going to kill myself. Locks his gun away. Burns all evidence of that he was going to commit suicide, to the letter to Charlie. And has this great inner monologue that I cannot recite because what happens next, I didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
And he suffers a heart attack. And
presumably dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the movie. That's the single man.
Yeah. Again, one of my favorite movies. When I was in grad school for that semester, it was, I've told the story many times, but it was supposed to be an Alfred Hitchcock class, but that professor has a remitting something or other, and it relapsed, and so, meaning the illness relapsed, and so we had another professor take his place. Didn't know anything about film analysis or any film studies, film history, anything like that. So he's like, we're going to do a Cold War era literature class. Not knowing anything about literature and how hard it could be to learn.
Because Jeremy doesn't know how to read.
No. And so I said, I'll just stick it out. This is one of the books we read. We read A Single Man. And I really, really liked it. I had already seen the movie at this point a few times. And so I was like, ooh, I really like this movie. Let's, the book is probably good. And it was.
Is there much difference from the book to the movie?
Not really.
So Tom really sticks to
the source
material.
It's the book, man. It's
and didn't you say that? I want to say you said the same thing about Nocturnal Animals, apart from the title.
Yeah, I think it's pretty. And that one's on my Audible. I haven't listened to it yet. Tony and Susan. But I would assume so. If if it's any indication about this one, then yeah, Tony and Susan. It should have been pretty close. And I don't remember what I said 2 years ago about it. So
yeah.
But anyway, so
you said to stick it out.
Yeah, stuck it out, and God, we read a lot of books, man. Or they read books. I followed along while someone else read it to me on Audible. Because we did like The Bell Jar. Who fucking cares? Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Hey, that was in this movie.
And I said, what about Breakfast at Tiffany's? And we just got sued by Deep Blue something.
That's okay. I'll future Rand will probably bleep you out.
Oh, cool. That's a long bleep. So, so anyway, so we read that. We were like Talented Mr. Ripley. We read, a bunch of.
So essentially, you all read like a ton of books that also have adaptations of movies.
Yeah, I guess so. I didn't watch any other ones besides this one in preparation. Number one, because Breakfast at Tiffany's, that adaptation is not straightforward. But Michael C. Hall read that one to me.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, he was the narrator for that one.
And that's me. Call me.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
So... But
I'm
anyway.
just trying to envision Michael Cera in a recording.
No, not Michael
booth.
Cera. Michael C. Hall.
Oh, Michael C. Hall.
Yeah,
okay,
Michael C.
okay.
Hall.
Oh, so it was Dexter.
Yeah, it was Dexter. And it sounded like Dexter. I'll tell you that.
You hear like a knife sharpening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of, we need to watch the new.
Dude, I need to watch like the last 2 seasons of the original run before I watch the new season.
I wouldn't. Anyway, but anyway, so this one, I wrote 2 papers.
Okay.
One was a short story at the end of Breakfast at Tiffany's, Truman Capote, right? And I wrote about the surrealism of that story and compared it to surrealism films I've seen, right?
Okay.
Made a C because I didn't use one literary reference because all I was doing was referencing movies, right? So that was a wash. This one, I just did not know what to write about because I was a little shook from that C, right? I was like, bro, man, like, I don't even know, dude. And he goes, okay, well, which book did you like? You know, I said, I really liked A Single Man, right? And he goes, okay. And I don't know if he already had this in his pocket or something, but he was like, oh, why don't you do, compare the mid-century modern aesthetic of the architecture and the furniture and stuff to the narrative of, I go, what? I said, what does that even mean? You know? And I was like, what even is mid-century? What are you talking about? You know? And
I'm sorry, am I going to school for architecture or?
I'm like, that's dumb. And then I was like, I don't have any other better options, so that's what I'm going to do. And so I wrote about the mid-century modern aesthetic in comparison to the events and the narrative of A Single Man.
Okay.
Turns out they correlate. So I want you to imagine in your mind's eye and then maybe put it here. The house. Okay, the house he lives in.
Oh, yeah, that dope-ass house.
Yeah. So number one, it is really nice, right?
Yeah.
It's a nice house.
A lot of glass.
A lot of glass, right? So that is very important, the glass.
Yes.
As he mentions to Jim in the film, you know, you aren't ready to live in a glass house, right? Because he is being very openly affectionate to George. And it's like, bro, like, people can't see this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of, you know, it's 1962.
Yeah.
And so the glass house is sort of like hiding in plain sight, right? Mm-hmm. But it also plays into his voyeuristic, which is why, and I joked that I put the definition of what voyeurism is to make more words for more page count.
If anyone's wondering what he's pointing to, he's got his laptop
I have my
open
laptop
with the paper that he wrote.
Yeah, and I could read some of it too if I really needed to, but and I actually have it open on the voyeuristic, the definition of voyeurism. But, you know, because he likes to look out into the, you know, into his neighborhood.
He likes to people watch.
He does like to people watch, but not only does he like to people watch, a lot of it is he's watching other people to see if they're noticing him, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of that. So it's not just I'm watching people to watch them. I'm watching them to see
if they see me.
Yes. And what are they saying, right?
Yeah.
It's also a very close-knit, very intimate house, right?
Yeah.
Like when he's in the kitchen, it's small, right?
Yeah.
This one might be in the book. I don't remember if it was in the movie, but he says that there's really no room to feel lonely, right? There's really no room to be lonely in this house. I think that was in the book.
Yeah, I think so.
And of course, that ends up not being true, right? Because with Jim gone, it might as well be, you know, a 10,000 acre, you know, ranch house. He's lonely, right? There's so much space in there that Jim used to fill that is no longer being filled. So no matter how small the intimate space is, you know, he is still very lonely. And this is, you know.
Yeah, and, you know, as you were saying that, I was kind of thinking about some of the scenes, and, you know, Tom Ford does this really great thing when we're seeing George by himself in the house does look much bigger. And then when we get our flashbacks with him and Jim, the house feels a little smaller.
Yeah.
Because Jim's there, their dogs are there. Which, I want to point out, that hurt me a lot, that only one of the dogs maybe survived the wreck. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, man.
Well, there's no dogs in the present day, so I think you're fine.
But but yeah, and also it seems like George has taken all of Jim's stuff out too. I guess to maybe help not having any reminders.
Right.
Even though those reminders will still be there.
So, like, as hard as this paper was to write, because, I had to learn about what mid-century modern aesthetic was. It gave me a deeper level to this movie, right? And to the story. To where that not only is the glass, which is, of course, that one's an easy one. But, like, in the book, he describes the staircase. He describes the kitchen. He describes, it matters. It matters. The space that he's living in, that he occupies, is relevant to who he is and what he's going through, right? All that matters. And so I really like that it's a different way to look at the story, and it's a different way to write and tell a story by making all of that stuff matter.
Yeah.
Right? Which I really, really liked. So thank you, Dr. Lagapa. I hate that you still gave me a C. I didn't meet the page requirement. I was like this much off.
Dude.
And by this much, I mean a page. So.
Yeah, man. That's, well, I mean.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. What are you going to do?
But I did really like the idea of it. And.
Well, and we get so many flashbacks in the house. We get to outside of the house when they first meet, and I'm assuming probably like maybe their first or second date, when they're out in the canyons. So, but all the other flashbacks are in the house, and it is very intimate, and it's
also very dark, right? The dark wood, in there, right?
It was a dope ass house,
and it's also very interesting because he's a college professor, right? This is a very affluent neighborhood he's living in, and it's a very expensive looking house.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's
driving a dope ass Mercedes.
That's true. So it also gives you an instance of, was Jim,
Well, Jim was in the Navy.
Doesn't mean anything.
People in armed forces get paid very well.
I don't know if that's true.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because it isn't true. But, it's almost like, it gives you a sense of, there's something else, like, he comes from money also. That's what it seems like to me.
Well, and shout out to another Colin Firth movie, Kingsman, he's got a pinky ring. So that makes sense.
How did you just make that connection?
Because he talks about how, a gentleman wears, like, the pinky ring, like... Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen Kingsman. I probably won't see The Kingsman because it's been too long. Plus, the Golden Circle isn't very good. Oh my god. Anyway, so I mean that makes sense that George would come for money. Well, what? It does make sense because when he clears out a safety deposit box, he's got bonds and and on all kinds of stuff that I guess he was going to give to Charlie.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
So it makes more sense that, as a college professor, he would have money. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a dope-ass house.
He does, and it's a very important house in terms of narrative, which, again, I really like.
Is a real house. It was not just built for the movie. It's a real house in Los Angeles.
The guy who built the house worked under Frank Lloyd Wright.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. So you can see where a lot of his influence came from learning from Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yeah.
By the way, Google who that is. I don't have time.
Yeah, Future Rain, don't worry about that shit.
Yeah, I don't have time. So, like, he's an architect. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about
it. But anyway, so, learning from him and seeing how you can, make a building be art, right?
Yeah.
And I forgot his name. It's in the paper.
Yeah, and it's I'll Future Rain will have to look it up to put up a picture of the house.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so
that'd be great. So, but anyway, it's an interesting looking house, which is interesting in and of itself because it's almost like, why would George want the attention, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's that hiding in plain sight. It's the, I don't want you to notice me, but it's also, it's funny that he lives in this house that is sort of, a, for lack of a better word, a cool looking house.
Yeah.
Because he is not cool. He's very bland. He's a very bland guy. And
Yeah.
at least up until that day, he seems to be very, extraordinarily ordinary.
Yeah.
And I do, this is an oops I forgot before that section of the show. I love the opening narration of, it takes a while for me to be George.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so do I really like that.
I love it. And of course, that's how the book opens as well. Where he's having to piece these things together. And in the book, he goes a little bit into more detail, what Peach does. Becoming George. Mm-hmm. Right? And I just like the idea of he is nothing without these things.
Yeah.
Right? He's nothing without his shirt and his tie. And his tie clip and his glasses and shoes. I really like that. It's almost like, a piece of him has already died, right?
Yeah.
These things are just, maintaining the pieces. Right?
It's the
barely holding them together.
Yeah, I was just about to say it's the tape that's barely keeping him together. Well, not barely. I mean, this was the day he was going to kill himself.
And I love the shot of him touching his lip
with the ink on his hand. Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, man.
So anyway, that's what I got for a single man.
Well, yeah.
Except that John Hamm is in the movie. Did you catch it?
Oh, that was my oops I forgot. That was gonna be my oops I forgot vocal cameo from John Hamm.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering who that was, and I was looking up trivia. It was like John Hamm. I was like, oh
no shit.
Because then now I hear it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my oops I forgot. But Jeremy, are you ready to wrap up?
I am. I'm glad that Tom Ford took the reins on this one.
Yeah.
Him being gay and having an older husband, I think.
Well, R.I.P. His husband has passed away.
Yeah. Gives this a sense of personal touch, right?
Yeah, because there is I would say probably maybe a 10-year age gap between Jim and George.
Yeah.
And I mean, as evidenced by Jim repeatedly calls him old man.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Right? Charlie does too.
Yeah.
Even though he's really not that old.
Yeah.
But, it gives this, it's almost like he's putting himself into this.
Yeah.
Which is what a good director does.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially since he helped with the script.
Yep.
Which I think he also
did not help with the costumes. People think he did.
Yeah.
People think he did and he didn't. So there you go.
Yeah. Look, listen. Tom Ford doesn't have to do all the suits in all his movies.
No, dude.
That's probably the one time he gets a break from that.
I know. He's like, oh, thank God I don't have to worry about the suits.
Like, look, I've got all these other things I've got to handle. You handled the suits.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
It looks good. Cool.
Yeah, it looks fine. I don't care.
I do not care. I hear another oops I forgot. He self-financed this movie.
Yeah, he basically bought it himself, right? The whole thing.
Which probably comes from all selling $5,000 evening jackets.
Yeah.
Which, Tom, please give me that one I put up last week. Did you see the one I put up? I mean, it's at the very end of the episode. It's tight. I'll show it to you.
Is it cool?
Yeah. But yeah, man, like I said, I watched this on my own and loved it. I will definitely find a Blu-ray. If they're going to do a 4K transfer, for sure I'll comp that.
They did Sony just released, again, re-released this one and The Road. It's on Amazon for $12 a piece. So that's
on Blu-ray or 4K?
Yeah, Blu-ray.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Blu-ray.
We probably won't get a 4K transfer for a while.
Yeah, not for that. I don't think.
But yeah, no, I for sure definitely would get it. And I just love it, man. Going into it, I knew I was going to enjoy it because I really enjoyed Nocturnal Animals. But I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I actually did.
Yeah.
It was great, man.
I think if I knew who Tom Ford was beforehand, I would have gone into it a little differently because I would have
No.
just, saw him as this thing, which is this fashion mogul.
Yeah.
Maybe like a fashion person made a movie. Like, it can't be good, right?
Yeah.
I think I would have gone into it that way. But I'm glad I didn't know because I don't know anything about fashion or Gucci or anything like that.
Neither do I. I didn't even know he had worked for Gucci until like when I was trying to figure out about this movie.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, he had worked for Gucci before he made his own brand. And
Took it out of bankruptcy.
yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah. So
Gucci.
That Gucci belt you're wearing, that's Tom Ford.
That's not for. Dude, now we're gonna get sued by the Gucci family.
I don't care.
Like they're trying to sue Ridley Scott right now.
I cannot wait to see that.
Dude, how's the Gucci?
How's the Gucci, man?
It's gonna be time. So Jeremy, what are we talking about next week, my man?
Okay, so I was thinking about it during this episode.
Okay.
I don't know if you can notice. I can do two things at once. And so
Wait, you can?
I can. At least I can talk about a movie while thinking about other ones. And I was thinking, I still want it to be weird,
Yeah.
right? But, what we haven't done in a while
What haven't we done in a while?
is a Tarkovsky movie.
Oh, okay.
So next week, we're going to be talking about Mirror.
Nice.
Andrei Tarkovsky. Very excited. This one I have not seen all the way through. I've started it and then I've either fallen asleep because I always start movies too late,
Well, don't do that.
or I've gotten interrupted. So this time, no excuse. Filthy mouth, no excuse. Find a place I can say.
That's the second
I
time
know.
you've quoted Bleed It Out on the podcast.
Well, it's a great song. Well, except for Chester's part.
Jesus Christ.
Don't have to worry about that anymore.
Shut the fuck up. Well, they may not even be together after this.
That's true. So, Mirror, Tarkovsky, very, very excited. I'm a big fan of Tarkovsky.
I am also excited, my man. Because
Just got a Criterion release, by the way.
I had my mixed feelings about Stalker, but the more and more I thought about Stalker, the more I got excited. Like I distinctly remember saying I didn't hate the movie, but I didn't enjoy it, because that was the first foreign film I'd really ever seen. But the more I thought about it, the more I fell in love with it, and the more I got excited to see another Tarkovsky movie. Both, all three of his movies are on my Criterion wish list. Stalker, this, and Solaris. I would love to have his other one, but I don't think that's going to get a Criterion release.
No, I have the other ones. Kino did a few. So Kino did Nostalgia and Sacrifice.
Uh-huh.
And you also need Ivan's Childhood, by the way. That does,
that does
have a Criterion
Ivan's
list.
Childhood and Andrei Rublev.
Right.
All his movies except for Nostalgia and Sacrifice
Yeah.
are on my Criterion.
Awesome. Right on.
But anyway, no, I'm excited, man, because I've been wanting to get this one on Criterion, and I think Amazon still has it on sale.
They should, because it's still November. So, hey, 50% off sale still going on Barnes & Noble, and a little bit of that is on Amazon because they don't like to be outshined. So,
Yeah. Because Bezos can't
can't handle it.
handle it.
So, the Criterion 50% off sale still going on.
Yeah, because that's
Early December.
my next week when I get paid. I'm getting our end of series.
Okay, nice.
End of season series.
Spoilers.
And I'll probably get that too. Well, actually, no, I won't have time to get that next week because that's when we'll have to watch it. So I'll have to probably go to Not Hastings and get it.
Oh, yeah. They got it there.
Yeah.
For sure. But you gotta get that Criterion release.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So yeah, it's also amazing.
Okay.
I don't care. I just love Tarkovsky, and I love talking about because it's like it's visual poetry. I love Tarkovsky. So
Yeah. Well, like I said, man, I'm excited, especially for our end of season series.
Yeah,
which
of course.
we'll tease that when it gets closer.
Yeah.
So we hope everyone enjoyed A Single Man, and we'll see you next week for Mirror.